Las Vegas is known for its wild bets, but this one isn't happening at a casino. It's unfolding right on the Strip, where a struggling baseball team with one of the worst records in the league is about to break ground on a $1.75 billion stadium in the middle of a desert city with no real baseball history. The Oakland A's are moving to Vegas, and they're not just bringing bats and gloves. They're bringing a high-stakes gamble that could change sports, real estate, and tourism in the city forever. But is this a home run or a billion-dollar bust waiting to happen? For decades, the Oakland Athletics were a gritty, underdog team with a loyal, if often frustrated, fan base. But behind the scenes, something was crumbling. Attendance was plummeting. The stadium, Ring Central Coliseum, wasn't just outdated, it was falling apart. Plumbing issues, feral cats, sewage leaks. It looked more like a relic from a forgotten era than the home of a major league team. Ownership had been begging for a new stadium for over a decade, but after years of failed proposals, red tape, and public pushback, one thing became clear. Oakland wasn't going to pay for a new ballpark. The city wanted the A's to stay, but they didn't want to foot the bill. Meanwhile, just 500 miles away, Las Vegas was reinventing itself again. Once known for smoky casinos and Elvis impersonators, Vegas was now home to the Golden Knights in the NHL and the Raiders in the NFL. Two massive franchises, two massive wins. The city had proven it could handle big league sports, and the tourism numbers showed it. That's when the whispers started. First, a few rumors in the press. Then, quiet meetings between A's executives and Vegas developers. A dinner here, a site tour there, and then confirmation. The A's had purchased land on the Strip, just off Tropicana Avenue, smack in the middle of Vegas's beating heart. Suddenly, what seemed like a joke became a full-fledged relocation plan. And if you look closely, the signs were always there. Empty seats in Oakland, a lack of political will, a new city, hungry for another team to add to its growing empire. But this wasn't just any move. This was Major League Baseball's first relocation in over 2 decades. And unlike the NFL's smooth shift with the Raiders, this one came with lawsuits, outrage, and an entire city left behind. For Vegas, it wasn't just about sports. It was about status, reinvention, another shot at becoming more than just a gambler's paradise. A new billion-dollar ballpark could attract year-round tourists, luxury development, and possibly a World Series? Or it could turn out like so many Vegas acts before it, flashy, loud, and gone in a few years. Forget everything you know about baseball stadiums. The Oakland A's new home won't be tucked into a quiet suburb or nestled in a waterfront park. It's going up on the Las Vegas Strip, arguably the most chaotic, expensive, and iconic real estate in America. And it's not just big. It's $1.75 billion big. The vision? A futuristic, glass-domed stadium with a retractable roof wrapped in LEDs, sitting on 9 acres of the old Tropicana site. Picture this, 33,000 seats under a glowing shell, just steps from the MGM Grand, and across the street from the lights of New York, New York. Guests could catch a game, then hit a slot machine without leaving the block. The design screams Vegas, flashy, otherworldly, and engineered to impress. Inside, the A's promise an experience that rivals any sports arena on the planet. We're talking luxury suites with skyline views, climate-controlled comfort for desert heat, and digital fan zones designed for the TikTok generation. It's not just a place to watch baseball, it's a playground for tourists, influencers, and billionaires alike. The A's call it a cathedral of sport. But critics, they've got other names for it, because behind every render is a reality. And that $1.75 billion price tag doesn't come with magic money. It involves public funds, tax breaks, and massive economic projections that may or may not hold water. And that's where things get interesting. The state of Nevada approved a $380 million public financing package, one of the largest in MLB history. That's taxpayer money going toward a stadium for a private franchise, one that's walking away from its home city. Vegas officials argue the investment will pay off in tourism, jobs, and prestige. But many locals aren't convinced. And then there's the timeline. The A's want to demolish the Tropicana in 2025 and have the new stadium open by spring 2028. That's less than 3 years to clear the land, pour the foundation, and build a futuristic dome in one of the most congested zones in the US, and ambitious? Definitely. Risky? Extremely. And yet, this is Vegas. A city built on spectacle, on risk, on betting everything on the next big thing. And now it's betting on baseball. The question is, will the lights of the Strip be bright enough to save a struggling team and transform a franchise? Or will this glittering dream become just another expensive mirage in the desert? For all the glossy renderings and high-stakes optimism, there's a side to this Vegas stadium story the A's would rather you not focus on. And that's the growing list of problems bubbling just beneath the surface. Let's start with the money. Yes, $1.75 billion is the projected cost, but the funding plan? It's more of a balancing act than a budget. The A's ownership is expected to cover the bulk of the bill, but $380 million is coming from the state of Nevada, and that figure includes $180 million in transferable tax credits, plus $120 million in county bonds. Translation: public money is on the table, and it's not sitting well with everyone. Opposition groups have already mobilized, slamming the deal as a corporate handout. Some locals argue that taxpayers are subsidizing billionaires while schools and infrastructure are underfunded. Even inside the State House, the bill barely squeaked by, passed by just one vote in a special session. And then there's the legal fog. Multiple lawsuits are now in motion, one from a coalition of Oakland fans and community leaders aiming to block the move altogether, another from unions and activist groups challenging the stadium's environmental review process, citing rushed approvals and questionable compliance with public transparency laws. But legal battles are just the tip of the iceberg. The A's still haven't finalized everything with Major League Baseball. Yes, the relocation has league support, but the final move isn't rubber-stamped yet. There are still stadium renderings pending, lease agreements in flux, and a lingering possibility of construction delays, especially if demolition of the Tropicana doesn't stay on schedule. And then there's the Vegas Strip itself. It might sound glamorous, but building on that specific stretch of land is a logistical nightmare. You're talking about working around mega hotel traffic, limited access for heavy equipment, and union schedules stacked with other Vegas mega projects. One wrong move and the entire timeline collapses like a house of cards. Meanwhile, in Oakland, fans are fuming. The A's are being called traitors. Attendance, already abysmal, has hit historic lows. Players have spoken out, so have journalists. For some, this move doesn't feel like ambition. It feels like abandonment. And here's the kicker. There's no plan B. If Vegas fails, there's no safety net. The A's will be a team without a city, without a stadium, without a fan base. It's all or nothing. And with a clock ticking toward 2028, there's not much room for error. In a town built on illusion, this might be the most fragile bet of all. Every mega project has its moment of truth. For the Oakland A's Las Vegas Stadium, that moment isn't years away. It's right now, and the clock is ticking faster than anyone expected. You see, the A's don't have time on their side. Under the current plan, the Tropicana Hotel and Casino must be demolished by 2025. And that's not just a ballpark milestone, it's the foundation of the entire Vegas move. If the Tropicana isn't cleared on schedule, the A's can't break ground. No groundbreaking means no stadium. No stadium means no relocation. And here's where it gets even tighter. The Tropicana is still operating. Rooms are being booked, shows are still running, and the demolition permits still working their way through Clark County's bureaucratic maze. That's not a problem for most teams, but the A's aren't most teams. They've already said goodbye to Oakland. They've made no long-term lease arrangements for the Coliseum beyond 2024, which means that, after this season, they don't really have a home. They've floated the idea of temporarily playing at Las Vegas Ballpark, home of their AAA affiliate, but it only seats 10,000 people, barely enough for a spring training game, let alone an entire MLB season. There's also talk of sharing a stadium with another team, but those deals, not confirmed, not close. So if the Tropicana delays, or if lawsuits drag out approvals, the A's could be staring down a full MLB season without a legitimate stadium. That's not just embarrassing, it's potentially catastrophic. And that's why the next 12 months are so critical. The demolition, the land transfers, The construction bids. Every piece has to lock in with perfect timing. One contractor hiccup, one permitting issue, one political backlash. That's all it takes to jam the gears. And behind the scenes, pressure is mounting. Major League Baseball doesn't want another PR crisis. They want headlines about expansion, not relocation chaos. The city of Las Vegas doesn't want lawsuits and bad optics right before a potential NBA bid. And A's ownership, they've bet everything. Brand, future revenue, and public credibility on this working. What happens in the next few months will determine everything. Either the bulldozers roll in, the Tropicana falls, and Vegas makes sports history again, or the A's end up homeless, the stadium turns into a ghost project, and the Strip's most ambitious gamble goes bust before it ever breaks ground. One deadline, one demolition, one domino that decides the future of a franchise. This story isn't just about a stadium. It's about a city trying to rewrite its identity, a team trying to outrun its past, and a league making a decision that could reshape the future of professional sports in America. Let's start with Las Vegas. For decades, Sin City was a sports exile, off-limits, off-brand, off the radar, but not anymore. The success of the Golden Knights, who won a Stanley Cup faster than anyone imagined, and the relocation of the Raiders, who now play in a $2 billion NFL palace just down the street, have changed everything. Vegas is no longer a sideshow. It's becoming the main event. If the A's move works, it'll cement the Strip as a legitimate sports capital, capable of hosting major league franchises, all-star weekends, and maybe even a future World Series. The new stadium could pull in tens of thousands of tourists every summer, spark high-end developments, and inject billions into the local economy. But if it fails, it's not just a blow to Vegas. It's a warning shot for every city chasing stadium dreams. Now let's talk about Oakland. This isn't just a team leaving. It's the third major franchise to abandon the city in less than a decade. First the Warriors, then the Raiders, and now the A's. What does that say about civic leadership, about political will, about the value of sports in a city's cultural and economic ecosystem? For Oakland fans, this isn't business. It's betrayal. Entire generations grew up wearing green and gold. They watched Ricky Henderson steal bases and cheered for Moneyball underdogs. And now all of it feels erased, paved over for a Las Vegas parking garage. But the stakes go even higher, because this move is a test case for Major League Baseball, a case study in whether relocation in the 21st century is a smart bet or a reputational landmine. If it works, other struggling franchises, like the Rays or even expansion candidates, could use this as a playbook. But if it collapses, the fallout could damage trust in MLB's leadership for years. And then there's the message this sends to the world, that teams are no longer bound by history, by loyalty, by local love. They're bound by leverage, by dollars, by city councils willing to write blank checks for luxury boxes and retractable roofs. In that light, the A's move isn't just a relocation, it's a referendum on what cities are willing to do to attract teams, on what leagues are willing to risk to grow, and on how fans, the lifeblood of any franchise, fit into this billion-dollar equation. This isn't just baseball, it's the new stadium wars. And the battle lines are being drawn right on the Las Vegas Strip. The bulldozers are warming up. The renderings are out. The Tropicana is counting down its final nights. And somewhere inside a Vegas boardroom, billion-dollar contracts are being drafted like playbooks before the World Series. But none of it's guaranteed. This is a city built on glitter and risk, where fortunes rise and collapse before the dice stop rolling. And now, the next gamble isn't a card game. It's a baseball team with a legacy in ruins, a fan base in revolt, and a future that's being written in concrete, neon, and promises. So here's the question. Is this the moment Las Vegas becomes the sports capital of the world, or the start of its most spectacular collapse yet? Is the Oakland A's move a visionary leap into the future,